At my father's funeral, my mom pointed at my grandma and screamed one word that destroyed our family. Murderer! I remember stopping halfway down the aisle, the smell of white lilies hitting me, the whole church turning silent as if someone had unplugged the world. My grandmother, Evelyn, sat in the front row, a small woman in a navy dress, holding a folded tissue like it was the only thing keeping her steady. She looked confused, hurt, and somehow even smaller after my mother's voice sliced across the room. She gave him the wrong pills, Mom said. She sedated him and let him drive. She killed my husband. I wanted to shout that she was wrong, that Grandma would never hurt anyone, especially not my father. But grief has a way of turning pain into rage, and my mother had found someone to aim it at. After the service, the whispers followed us into the basement where people gathered for coffee and quiet condolences. No one approached Grandma. Even the pastor avoided her eyes. I sat beside her, watching her fingers twist the tissue until it nearly tore. Sarah, she whispered, I never touched his medicine. He took things on his own. You know how he was with his back pain. I knew, and I believed her. But belief felt thin next to the accusation that had just echoed through a church. When we got home, things escalated fast. My mother moved through the house like a storm, packing my dad's clothes, slamming drawers, crying and cursing under her breath. My brother Mark had already set up his laptop at the table with papers stacked neatly next to him. We need to get ahead of the bills, he said. Mom can't handle this alone. Mom nodded. And your grandmother is going to help. She owes us that much. I blinked. Help how? Mark slid a stack of documents toward me. She's sitting on a house and savings she doesn't need. We'll use that to cover everything. Assisted living is safer for her anyway. Safer, I repeated. She isn't dangerous. Mom's eyes snapped toward me. You didn't hear him choking in the hospital, Sarah. You didn't watch him die because she messed with his medications. I didn't argue. I just felt something cold settle inside me. 2 days later, Grandma came over with a tin of cookies she had baked out of habit, like she didn't know she wasn't welcome anymore. Mark ushered her into the dining room and spread out the same documents, transfer of property, authorization for control of her accounts, telling her they were temporary and just to help cover costs. Your home is too big for you now, he said, and the bills are piling up. This will make things simple. Grandma's hands trembled as she tried to read the pages. I don't understand all this. You don't need to, Mom said. Just sign. I stood in the doorway, watching my grandmother, who taught me to sew, who saved every birthday card I ever made, press a shaky signature onto papers she didn't understand. The room felt smaller with every stroke of her pen. Within a week, Mark and Mom moved her into a rundown nursing home on the edge of our Ohio suburb. Paint peeling, carpets thin, hallways smelling like bleach and loneliness. They told the staff, call only for emergencies. And then they walked out. I didn't know it then, but the lie they built that day, the lie that Grandma had killed my father, was about to crack wide open. Because my dad left her something. Something that would shatter everything they thought they knew. Months later, I walked into that nursing home and realized my grandmother had been living inside a punishment she didn't deserve. The hallways were dim, the carpet threadbare, and somewhere down the corridor, an alarm beeped over and over with no one answering it. When I stepped into Grandma Evelyn's room, she was sitting on a thin mattress, her back hunched, holding her old flip phone like it was a lifeline. Sarah, she whispered, surprised to see me. I didn't think anyone was coming today. I swallowed hard. Grandma, why didn't you call me? They said you were busy, she said softly. Your mother told the staff I shouldn't trouble you unless something was wrong. My chest tightened. This wasn't care, this was exile. I pulled a chair close. How are they treating you? She hesitated. It isn't home, but I try to pretend. That broke me a little. On her nightstand sat the pill bottle taken from her house, the same one Mom insisted she used to sedate my father. The label had her name on it, a dosage no doctor would ever prescribe for a man. It reminded me how flimsy the accusation really was and how quickly the family had believed it. Grandma held out her phone. I listen to this when it gets lonely. She clicked the button, and a voicemail began to play. At first, it was just static and the low hum of a car engine. Then my father's voice filled the room, rough, tired, a little slurred. Mom, please don't tell Linda. I'm drinking again. I thought I could stop, but I can't. I just need you to keep this between us. If anything happens, it's on me. You tried to help. I know you did. Grandma closed her eyes as if she could still feel the weight of that confession. I sat frozen, the blood rushing in my ears. Dad wasn't sedated. He wasn't drugged. He was drunk, and he had begged her not to tell anyone. The lie my family built, the lie that destroyed Grandma's life, had never been hers to carry. Why didn't you tell Mom? I asked. Your father made me promise, she whispered, and I kept failing him. I didn't want his last memory of me to be breaking my word. My throat tightened. But they blamed you. They needed someone to hate more than the truth, she said quietly. Sometimes grief chooses the wrong target. I copied the voicemail to my phone. Then I asked to see Dad's messages. She handed me the device with trembling fingers. The texts were there, short, frantic, scared. Don't tell Linda. I'm not supposed to be driving. I'll stop tomorrow. I swear I will. It wasn't Grandma's fault. It was his drinking, his choices, his regret. And my family had buried all of that under accusations and signatures. When I left the nursing home that day, I didn't go home. I drove straight to my childhood house, walked into Mark's old room, and dug through the locked filing boxes he kept there. He never imagined I'd know what to look for. Inside, I found copies of the property transfer, the bank account authorization, and the sale agreement for Grandma's house, signed the very same week they moved her into that facility. They hadn't just blamed her. They had taken everything she owned. I gathered the papers, scanned them, and saved them to my phone. Then, before the anger could fade, I drove to a small law office behind the grocery store, the office of Miss Carter, a quiet attorney known for handling estate disputes. She listened to the recordings without blinking. She studied the documents with a calm that made my heart pound. When she finally looked up, her voice was steady. Sarah, what your mother and brother did isn't just unethical. It may be criminal, and we're going to address it. She scheduled a mandatory financial review meeting with Linda and Mark for the following Monday. They thought it would be about controlling Grandma's remaining assets. They had no idea we were coming with the truth. My mother and brother walked into Miss Carter's office on Monday morning with the confidence of people who believed the world still belonged to them. Mark wore a suit like he was heading to a job interview. Mom clutched a folder of printed accusations, her jaw tight, convinced she was about to fix the mess her mother supposedly caused. Neither of them noticed my hands shaking as I sat beside the attorney's desk. Miss Carter greeted them with the calm of someone who had already seen the ending of this story. Thank you for coming, she said. We need to discuss Evelyn's financial transfers and the circumstances surrounding them. Mark sighed dramatically. Good, we've been saying for months that she can't manage her own affairs. Mom nodded. She's dangerous. After what she did to David, she shouldn't be anywhere near money or medication. Miss Carter folded her hands. I see. Before we continue, I need you both to listen to something. She pressed play. My father's voice filled the room. Tired, unsteady, honest. Mom, please don't tell Linda. I'm drinking again. I thought I could stop. If anything happens, it's my fault, not yours. You tried to help. My mother went pale. Mark stared at the table. The room fell into a silence so heavy it felt like gravity had doubled. Miss Carter let the message finish before speaking. That was recorded only hours before the accident. It directly contradicts your claim that Evelyn gave him the wrong medication or impaired his ability to drive. Mom shook her head quickly. No, he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't lie to me. He wasn't lying, I said quietly. You just didn't want the truth. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. Miss Carter pulled out the next stack of papers. The property transfer, the bank authorization, the sale agreement for Grandma's house. These documents were signed while Evelyn was under emotional duress and based on false allegations, she said. They show a pattern of coercion and financial exploitation of an elderly woman. Mark finally spoke. We didn't exploit her. We were trying to protect the family. By taking her home, I asked. By moving her into the cheapest nursing home in town. By telling the staff not to call unless she was dying. His jaw tightened, but he didn't try to deny it. Miss Carter continued. The court has already been notified. Action is being taken to restore Evelyn's assets, place financial control back in her name, and review both of your roles in these transfers. Further consequences may follow." Mom pressed her hands to her face. "Sarah, how could you do this to us?" "I didn't do it to you," I said. "I did it for her. You blamed an innocent woman because it was easier than accepting the truth about Dad." Mark stood abruptly, knocking his chair back. "This is ridiculous. We were grieving." "And she wasn't," I asked. "You destroyed her life while she was grieving too." For the first time, I think he heard me. Miss Carter closed the file. "This meeting is over. I suggest you prepare for what comes next." They walked out without looking at either of us. That afternoon, Grandma's assets were legally frozen to prevent further transfers. Within a week, her house was returned to her name. Within a month, she was moved out of the nursing home and into a quiet senior apartment with sunlight, a small porch, and a community garden she immediately adopted as her own. When she rewrote her will, she didn't ask me what she should do. She simply handed me the signed document and said, "I'm leaving things where they will be safe." Mom and Mark's names were nowhere on it. Late one evening, as we unpacked her boxes, Grandma looked at me and whispered, "Thank you for listening to the truth, even when no one else wanted to." I squeezed her hand. In the end, the lie that trapped her finally broke apart, and the people who created it lost her home, and every inheritance they tried to steal.